So we have another question from a viewer in Appleton about the Appleton prison. Just by way of background for our panel, this is a pretty sophisticated audience about that topic. It's it's been fairly regularly visited over the last couple of decades in various ways, and of course there's been discussion about both leasing and buying. I don't think anybody's talking about having the current property owner operate it. So let me just ask Representative Baker, simply because as a matter of geography, that's just down the road from you.
It is.
Tell our viewer what the status is of the Appleton prison discussions, if any.
Well, and there has been some, and again, my seatmate with this is Representative Tim Miller, Senator Andrew Lang, who actually represent the Appleton area. So as I've understood this, that the need is there for, I think, 500 beds again. I know there's a capacity out there for 1,500 beds. It's a state-of-the-art jail ready to go. I completely support getting that back open and running it through the state of Minnesota. I think I don't know where the legislation is at on that. I don't sit on any of those committees. But I will tell you, the need is there. The community wants it. I certainly would wholeheartedly support that versus opening up a brand new brick and mortar facility somewhere else. I know the county jails right now are helping us with the overflow, but they don't get the same services they get as they would in a state prison. So I hope something can get worked out. I hope that when the need is right there, and again, Senator here might know exactly where we're at with the need of beds, but with some recent sentencing guideline changes, maybe that has lightened a little bit of a load. Yes. But I sure hope that our town of Appleton, Minnesota, can actually see that nice facility open again, and we can return a lot of the really good jobs out there that's needed.
Senator Ingebrigtsen?
My goodness, I'm going to date myself a little here, but I was part of the sheriff's district at that time, which was a sheriff in that particular county that called us over there when they were just building that and putting the plans together. So I've been around a long time with the Appleton prison, and actually the bonding committee just toured that last year, and it is in very good shape, actually. It really is, and they've kept it up to date, and there's no question about it. I mean, when I came here 11 years ago, there were 900 state prisoners in the Appleton prison at that time, and I don't know what we were paying per day per diem, but I think we seriously have to look at either the purchasing or leasing of that, and I guess I would call it kind of err on the side of purchase, and let the state run it, let the state facility run it. The same employees that are members of the state union now, and I think we've even opened our arms up to that idea, but it is a long ways away from our main nucleus of people, but nevertheless it's there. To build a $140 million new brick and mortar, I think that probably isn't the way to go right now, when we can probably get a pretty good shot at this private situation out there that hasn't been utilized for a while, and I think it'd be a good idea.
Representative Newton?
Yeah,
Senator Newton, I'm sorry.
Don't like the idea of a private prison, but I agree with you. I think that if we buy the prison and have the state run it, the only problem is if we are decreasing the number of inmates that we're going to have in the prison system now, then we start bringing prisoners in from other states, to keep the prison full just because we have it. I had suggested on a couple of occasions that we have people under the 48-hour rule that when they're being sentenced in court, they have to have an understanding of the system and all this, and so we send them to the Anoka Regional Treatment Center to get that evaluation to make sure they're mentally competent to stand trial. Mm-hmm. We have some people in there who've been there for 6 months, and it's costing over $1,000 a day for them to do that. So I was toying with the idea of possibly using a place like Appleton to have the people there under the prison system rather than under the mental health system, so that if that's even feasible. But then, you got transportation and all the other things. But that's another issue that I think we have to deal with down the road, is that we have our mental facilities filled with people that really shouldn't be there when we've got a crying need for facilities for those that do have a need.
Yeah, well, I think the issue about needing jobs in communities is a very serious issue, but I don't think that we should have our policy around corrections be about whether people in a community need jobs. That is a little disturbing to me. I think that we can reduce our prison population. I think that we are. I hope it's moving in the right direction. look, every time we incarcerate somebody for a long time, obviously there are people who have to be incarcerated and should stay there, some of them for their entire lives. But when we are incarcerating somebody who doesn't really have to be incarcerated, that is a huge failure. And there is a sense that if you build it, they will come. You know, I think that we need to be working on ways to reduce our prison population. Actually, legalizing cannabis would reduce our prison population, save us a ton of money on law enforcement, corrections, and all kinds of things like that. I just think that that Appleton prison is really the wrong way to go. That's my opinion.
Anybody have any information about the status of the bill or whether there's likely to be any action this session?
Yeah, it was in the public safety bill in the House. Whether whether it is in the
going through conference
Senate.
committee now. I know they're
Right.
talking about it. I talked to Senator Lang this afternoon, and there's still some fairly active discussions going
Yep.
on. But you're right. County jails are now, they're actually renting beds to the state facility. And the senator's right. We've got other issues as well. Mental illness beds, we have a severe shortage of that.
Right.
And we're tying up a lot of public safety and a lot of nursing staff, a lot of doctor staff in ER, with the inability to have any place to go, any place to take these folks that need immediate help. And so, not only corrections we should be looking at, but really the beds for the emergency mental illness. Diagnoses and things like that we really need to do.
Right, and we do have some proposals moving forward on that front, which is really encouraging if we can get the funding for them, because also people need to be near their homes.
Yes, that's very
it's
important.
really, we don't want to have somebody who's in a mental health crisis and ship them somewhere far away where their family can't be with them and so on. So especially when we're talking about young people.
Right.